Yo, 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 yo. What's going on, family? Hopefully you're doing well. Welcome to another Stock Sermon Sunday here on the channel. My name is Dr. B. If you're new here and you are re-listening to this, rewatching it at any point in time, we appreciate you for giving up your time because you could be anywhere else. It's Sunday, right? Or maybe it's Monday that you're listening to this or another time in the future. But I respect everyone's time and I want to make sure that that time is used wisely. So welcome. We'll spend about an hour together live. And if you're rewatching, that's awesome. But the value is being here live. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of times people have questions following up and they're like, man, like I'm trying to learn for free. Like I get it. Like you pay for what you get. And I'm here on this every single Sunday until otherwise to give free value. So if you want your questions answered, if you want me to look at a particular stock that you may have in your portfolio, you want me to give some technical analysis, maybe some fundamentals to see when it might pop, some ideas that you should consider, right? Please make sure that you are putting this on your calendar at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I know Sunday Night Football is back. I'm a big football fan too, more of a college, but you can turn this on in the background, put it over to the side, record the football later, just watch it later. Okay. I'm telling you. All right. I'm excited for this week. What's going on, Tanvir? I'm excited for this week and I'm really excited for Q4. I think that the summer months, it's always difficult to trade. There's always, we are extremely bullish. I'll just say that right now. And if you bought the April dip, amazing, right? But a lot of folks are like, man, did I miss something? Like we're just keep running and all the tech stocks are overvalued and like I don't want to chase and they're a little bit too much money for what I want to spend. Like, or is there still opportunities in the market? Is the market going to crash or when an AI bubble? What's going on with this government shutdown? Right? Inflation is still high, Brian. Like what is actually going on? So every Sunday, giving those updates throughout the week to give you a temperature on our economy and the market. So if you're here for that, give me a like, give me a comment down below. Let me know where you're tuning in from. I truly appreciate it. And always, I'll just get this out of the way, okay? Because I know many of you maybe join different YouTube channels and you're like, just get to the point. All right, get to the point. If you do want to have a little extra, okay, I give you these things for free, but hey, I've got a business. I've also got a life. So my time is valuable. So if you choose to learn more or would like to learn more, you can support the channel by joining our Leverage University Discord down below, or just say, hey, Ryan, just share this out with somebody that's new, right? Just share that out with someone that's new. That's also something that you could do for me that would truly, really help this channel grow if you're getting value. So make sure you share the wealth. And if you are truly trying to learn and also have more extensive ideas and training, please join Leverage University. We've got some new levels available for you. And most people have the ability to do one of those levels, if not more. All right. So I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much. Without further ado, let's jump into it. I want to wait. I always kind of give a little bit of a buffer just because some people kind of lag behind, come in, and I kind of, address any questions, or if y'all want to learn more about myself, just let me know. I cannot watch college football anymore. My alma mater, Texas, isn't doing Oh my gosh, man. I feel let's not get into this. Okay, I got to get into it real quick. If you're not a college football fan, just skip ahead, okay? All right, this is a 2-minute segment. Okay, just give it some breathing room here. Arch Manning, if you don't know, if you're not a football fan, he is the son of the brothers of Peyton Manning and Eli Manning. Okay. Arch's dad was just as good a football player, got hurt in college, or was it NFL? Anyways, had to sit it out, just became a great dad, professional, so on and so forth. So he's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders. I think he still needs some work personally. The sidearm throws, I mean, I don't know. He is a sophomore. He did sit under Quinn Ewers last year, and I just got questions, but my Alabama's pulling. I think that FSU game, that Alabama game, they're starting to look really good. I don't know. So I love college football. Not too much of an NFL fan personally. Leverage University. Yep. They're like, man, they did adopt this Manning from somewhere. Appreciate you, Tanvir. Always, man. Always. All right, everybody, let's jump into it. Like I said, you said, Brian, value your time, so get into it. Today, I want you to go ahead and write down our kind of our what is it called? God dang it. It's a school term. Anyways, here's how we run this particular live. All right, we'll talk about the fundamentals for the week. We'll talk about our economic data that affects the week. We got some economic data that is starting to kind of trickle in. We do have the government shutdown that started last week, which paused the NFP data, which is our unemployment data, which was on Friday, okay? So we got some data that we'll start releasing out this week that will not be upheld. So we will need to pay attention to that this week, along with earnings, okay? I will be doing next week, okay? Make sure you're tuned in to next Sunday, all right? Because it is time to prepare yet again for earnings season. Earnings season, we talk about it all the time. A lot of folks are not preparing early enough. They're like, man, I should have bought Oracle back when it was, underneath $200. Man, I should have bought AVGO back when it was underneath $200. And then you get to earnings season and the stock is running up into earnings and just takes off. Okay. So please, 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 if you don't know how to trade or what earnings season is, there's a video on the channel that you can go and watch that I'd highly recommend, how to invest, how to trade leading up to earnings season. Okay. Our Q3 earnings for a lot of companies going into finance first. So JP Morgan's coming up. Okay, we got some others that are coming up. Finance always leads the way. And then we got our tech companies. Then we got semiconductors. All right, so we want to prepare for those earnings season pullbacks. So a lot of companies that are pulling back now, like Palantir, like Tanvir said, I'll talk about that today because people are getting a little bit itchy, right, on these pullbacks. But a lot of times, like when Meta's pulling back, when Palantir's pulling back, when Amazon's pulling back, leading into earnings season, sometimes that is a clue or a potential dip buy grab up. Okay, so we want to pay attention to, okay, man, this is a short-term pullback. We're starting to get a little bit of pullback in some of our tech, but they've been having great earnings this year. So is this the pullback that I need to watch for Amazon to take back off to 250? Right? For Palantir to go to 200 before the end of the year, things like that. All right. So got some questions. Exactly. I like 161, 160. All right. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Let me get my screen up. Make sure you're looking at all kind of other stuff on here. And I've got a trade idea that you want to stay tuned for the end of the video. So please, I've got a easy money trade idea towards the end that pretty much almost anyone can participate in. All right. So make sure you stay to the end. If you're already rewatching, you're probably going to skip ahead to it anyways. All right. Cool. All right. Let's go. All right, everybody. If you're a beginner, I always try to make sure that beginners don't get lost. So if someone referred you to this channel, if you clicked on it on accident, just make sure that it's a beginner friendly. Make sure that you understand that I am a beginner friendly channel, but I do talk as we progress. Okay, so intermediate, advanced. So everyone is welcomed on here. So this is a stock sermon Sunday. This is where we go over the stuff for the week, right? And a lot of times it's not a full educational thing on here. That is for our Discord. That is for the new course, the short-term course that will be coming out. And then some videos that we have on the channel. So if you have any questions that you really want to get off your chest, put it down below in the comments. All right, Monday, October 6th, nothing really on the docket. So I would consider this kind of an open, as I'll call it, a free Monday. Okay, FREE. That essentially means that we have no interruptions on the docket necessarily. And the market typically moves, some low volume, maybe, it might kind of chop around, try to choose a direction for the week, setting up to see what might be coming in store. Okay. So Mondays are always, I'll just tell you right now, Mondays are always a little tricky to trade more specifically, right? Some people just take off Mondays, just watch. I like to participate on Mondays because I get a little feel for the market and how certain stocks are moving, but I might be a little bit more patient off the open when I'm trading on Monday. All right. So I might wait for my first 15-minute, 30-minute, maybe sometimes even a full hour candle to form until I take my first trade on a Monday. Now, some of you in our live trading, it's like, Brian, you've taken stuff 5 minutes into the market on a Monday. I was like, yeah, if I see a solid A+ setup, I will, but it's kind of guessing a little bit on a Monday which direction we're going to go. All right. Tuesday, we've got U.S. trade deficit, a couple Fed speakers, got consumer credit. Wednesday, a lot of Fed speakers. And then right here is our minutes reading for the FOMC meeting that we had a couple of weeks ago. All right. So we had that FOMC meeting, if you remember, and we cut rates by 0.25 or 25 basis points. So that's a good thing, right? Because the market popped. But if you remember, like following that, I talked about this and you were wondering maybe why the market pulled back a little bit, and I'll show it on the charts, is because Fed Powell kind of gave a little sentiment of some hawkishness, right? Some concerns, some bearishness or concerns that, hey, I know I cut rates. However, inflation is still a little bit of a concern. Labor market is still a little bit of concern. If you remember those words that he spoke, he talked about we're in a no hire, no fire type of zone, right? People are getting laid off, but also people are not wanting to leave their jobs because they don't know, but they're not happy, and then they're not getting paid what they're worth, and then they're concerned and they're stressed. They're like, am I going to get laid off? Am I not? Do I need to move on? Like, I don't know what to do. Do I need to start a business? So we're kind of in this weird middle, and that was his sentiment when he was speaking about a week or so ago, right? So he did what everyone wanted, which was cut rates. But then his sentiment afterwards was kind of a little bit, I don't know. I just did what y'all wanted me to do, right? So that's what's in the back of my mind as these minutes and these Fed speakers start speaking this week is, are they hawkish, meaning bearishness or concerned, or are they more dovish and bullish, saying, hey, everything's good. We're looking at more rate cuts. So that's going to be the sentiment for this week, is going to be looking at how all these Fed speakers coming in, following Fed Powell, and then we're going to have our minutes on Wednesday. And then we have jobless claims, which is going to be very, very important before the market opens on Thursday. And then we have consumer sentiment. Consumer sentiment preliminary. Consumer sentiment in general has not been very good, okay? It's been a little bit iffy, coming in right in expectations, but not very good. If you don't know what consumer sentiment is, that is essentially the consumer, i.e. us, okay, how we're feeling about the sentiment of the market or the goods and services that we need to just live everyday life. So how's our gas? How's our groceries? How do we feel about, just general shopping and taking care of our bills and electricity and things of that nature, right? So we know what that is. We know what's going on. So I believe my sentiment, and I never try to have too much of a bias going into a week, right? We are bullish on the charts. I will say that right now. We are bullish on the charts. Every pullback is getting bought up, okay? But how many of you watch the markets now that you are learning, or maybe you're advanced and you are in the markets actively? How many of you watch the markets on Friday when it looked like, man, we're bullish, we're bullish, we're bullish, we're bullish, we're bullish. And then we give up the whole move plus some, right? It trapped bulls into those highs, all right, coming into a week like this. So we've kind of changed a little bit of direction, but we've fallen right into a level of support, all right? So a little bit tricky. So I just want to make sure everyone is prepared, and also how you can safely say, okay, this is a little bit too volatile, a little bit too much movement for me. Brian, is there a safer trade that I can take further out, right? Maybe I don't trade this week, or maybe I just want to kind of chill this fall. Is there anything that I can take further out, right? And I can start getting my trading journey going, and I also can get my investing journey going into the end of the year. All right, that's a mouthful. Let's jump into our earnings and see if we got anything coming up this week. Come on, pop up for me. And while I am going through all of this, if anything pops up for anybody, you're more than welcome to put it down in the chat. All right, earnings. Appreciate the earnings whisper. Shout out to them and the work that they're doing. Just go ahead and putting these calendars together. All right. So on Thursday, nothing really at the beginning of the week as far as trading any of these companies that I'm looking at, but we're starting here. Here's where we start. All right. Delta Airlines, and then we've got PepsiCo and Tilway's, also interesting, but I'm really looking at Delta and PepsiCo. Okay. So we're starting this and Applied Digital, okay, or Applied Blockchain, APLD. A lot of people are familiar with that. That was a great dip buy this year and has been running pretty nicely. So Delta, PepsiCo, and Applied Blockchain. All right. So those are our major ones that I am going to be looking at this week, just to see how we start off with the airlines, how we start off with some of these consumer consumer discretionary stocks. All right. Cool. Let me check the chat really quick. Make sure y'all good. All right. If you're coming in, welcome. All right. Let's jump on the charts where the money's made and our core list. Pull that down. Pull this down. Pull this down. Down. All right, cool. So we always start off on SPY, and just for anyone that is new to the channel or new to the Stock Sermon Sunday, I never want anyone to get confused on here. So there's always a video on the channel called How to Read a Stock Chart. And I would highly recommend that you watch that video to understand the movement, because what you're looking at right now is money on these weird little candlesticks and stuff. It tells you where and patterns the market will be going and the sentiment that may be coming up. Okay. So everyone keeps talking about the market's overextended. It's overextended. It's overextended. It's overextended. Right. So I'm going to start from a very broad view, and I'm going to come back into our weekly view and what's going to happen that you consider this week. Okay. So from SPY, starting off on a blank chart here, moving every single indicator on the chart, we can see that if we go to a monthly chart, we start a new month. Okay. The stock market, or in general, SPY, the S&P 500, will go up over time and will continuously go up over time before us and after us when we leave this earth. Okay. So I always say when we were younger and our parents or grandparents or boomers, or if you are a boomer, welcome. Anybody that came to you and said, hey, even school said, just buy the S&P 500, just buy VTI, buy VOO, buy the overall market, and just buy and hold. But my concern, and I think what is changing now in the nature of education around the stock market, is, what does that mean? The questions that I get are so staggering, because I used to have those questions, but the questions that I get are staggering to the fact that people have very basic questions like, Brian, what is a brokerage? Right? Like, Brian, where do I buy the market? Like, what are they talking about? I'm talking about, these are people in their 40s and 50s. Right? No judgment at all. These are people in their 30s and 20s. Like, what do you mean by the market? What does that mean? So when we were growing up, someone telling us that, we were so blind to the fact that, oh, this is what it looks like. I can look at the bottom of the chart and say in 2009, 2010, you can look at the price over on the y-axis here, and then the date is right here on the x-axis. If you see there's 2008, the drop right there, that was a wealth opportunity to buy the market while everyone was concerned, maybe losing some money, whatever, but inflation was low, so people still had some money, right? But buying the market, what does that mean? So in 2008 to 2018, right, we had an increase of roughly 300% in 10 years. That's what it means when someone asks me, what does it mean to buy the market? This is what it means, the S&P 500, the top 500 companies at the time during that particular time, because the S&P 500 rotates with different companies. Some are in, some are out based on their performance, right? So the S&P 500, right, SPY is the ETF of the S&P 500, right, likes to stair step its way up. It's not going to go up in a straight line. It may seem like it. So I'm more speaking to, people that are new to the charts or beginners. If you're here, okay? So as the market extends itself, it will always retest, right? Always retest a specific previous resistance level. Okay. When people were talking about this extension here from 2022 all the way up into 2025, or just say 2024. Okay, so we had a almost year and a half, roughly 2-year run of just almost a straight up move. Okay, so when you're looking at this, like that's 80% in roughly 800 days. Okay, that is severely overextended without a pullback. Okay, so this pullback right here, guess what? Where was the previous high? Right there. Right? So you come up, pull back to a previous high right there. There's that pullback. And I'm on a monthly chart. So you can almost to the T, quote unquote, estimate. I'm not going to say guesstimate, but estimate that when is going to be our pullback year or a potential bear market year, right? Because we need a pullback. So if we're extended from 2020 all the way up into 2021 without any pullback, do you see it's just a straight up move with no retest of pretty much the 2020 highs. So 2022, when we got those stimulus checks, right, in 2020, 2021, oh man, you know, the interest rates are low, stimulus checks, they're just giving us money and everybody's good, and PPP loans. Bear market 2022. Okay. Then we ramp back up because the market will go up over an extensive amount of time throughout time. Okay. We extend ourselves for another leg up from the 2022. And now we have pulled back again here in 2025. Now we're extending the leg, another leg to the upside. But guess what? Y'all see it? We have not really retested from this extreme buy up dip. Okay, to here, which is at 614. And if we want to be more specific, right at about 609 to 600. You're like, dang, that's a 70-point drop. Yeah. But guess what? The market will go back up, right? So we don't know where the top will be. So I say this to say that for people that ask me, and I'm saying this because people ask on Instagram DMs and just texting, and I went back home for the first time in a while, and people were like, hey, what do you think? And I'm like, well, it depends on where you are, right? If you've been investing for 10 plus years, then okay, cool. Just keep dollar cost averaging. If you're just starting your investing journey and you're trying to buy shares right now of your favorite tech stocks, and you're hearing people say buy NVIDIA at 200. Yeah, NVIDIA will be, 300, 400, 500, whatever your estimated value of NVIDIA will be over a period of 5 years, 10 years, and so on, right? But your entry is so important. So in my opinion, the market in general, I want to prepare for that next big pullback. I was prepared for this one, right? I told my Leverage University members, and if y'all remember me, if you've been following for the channel, all last year in 2024, I said, it's going to happen. Be prepared. We don't know when it will happen, and it will be drastic or seemingly drastic. But all we did was retest that previous high with a straight up move. So what are we doing now? Straight up over this new high. We don't know where the top is. We don't know where the top is. We don't know where the top is. But if you're looking to long-term invest, DCA, right? Put it on recurring buy for the overall market. If you're just trying to make it simple, put it on SPY, buy $5 a day, whatever, right? But when people say load the boat, we're looking for, a lot of big money investors are looking for this, right? Where is that next pullback to give us that next leg? So it could be here, another leg up, right? We don't know, but we would like about a 610 to 615 or even a 600 pullback. Okay. So if you see that in the next 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, right? Kind of how we did this into the end of the year. And then we came into a new year, 2 months of a pullback, right? When that happens, that is where it's like, okay, if I have a little bit of extra, that's where I want to get more confident, right? Doesn't mean don't stop investing, right? It just means that that is where you would like, because that is what has happened over time. Give me a one in the chat. Does that make sense? That is how a long-term investor, right, is looking for that opportunity. Like when you hear Warren Buffett is sitting on X amount of dollars of cash and he's selling some shares and kind of taking some off and waiting, and everyone else is like, man, just hit buy, load up, load up, load up. Right? That's what happened last time people loaded up at the highs. And then they panic sell. And then when the dip comes, you've panic sold, and then you've lost, and then you don't have the cash flow to buy it back up. Well, Brian, I don't have, $500,000 or 6 figures of liquid cash. It doesn't matter. You can start investing. I'm coaching right now. Just let some of y'all grown folks know. I'm coaching early 20-year-olds, right? 20, 21, 22. They got a little bit of money, a little bit of cash, right? But they're intrigued, right? They're intrigued to learn this and invest in whatever they have. So, but for us, right, millennials, Gen X, right, even some of my later Gen Zs, like, we're trying to hold on to a pipe dream. Any extra money we get, okay, I'll hold on to it. I don't want to do. I get it. We're getting later in life, so we don't want to risk anything, right? But we can't take it with us. We can't take it with us. So I'm done buying the luxury. I'm done buying all that stuff personally, right? At least for right now. I like nice things. I'm done buying all that, right? Every little thing that comes, I'm like, how can I double this? How can I 50% this, right? Because folks got some extra. If you got a stable job and you're bringing in 6, 7, 8, 9K, you got an extra $1,000 left over. You can flip that 1,000 responsibly, right? So just wanted to speak into you that this stock market stuff, it is powerful. It is powerful. When I see folks sitting on the sidelines like, I'm like, bro, we just made 50% on shares in 2 months, and your savings account is making 3% or 0.003%. You didn't have to do anything, right? So y'all know what I'm talking about. If y'all been here before, you get it. So just speaking power into everybody really quick. But that is my overall analysis of SPY. Okay. Of the S&P 500 is, hey, dollar cost average, but Brian, when's the next load up the boat zone? When are we going to get another dip? I want 610, maybe even 600, right? Maybe into the low 620s, right? Whenever that happens, do we get to 700 first? Maybe by the end of the year, we get to 700. Okay, cool. That's fine. Right. But I am not interested in loading up the boat in a straight up move, grind higher like that. Right. We've pretty much done it since April. Right. There's been really no major nice rotational pullback that scares everybody back down. Okay. Does that make sense? Can I get a one in the chat really quick from the big overview on the broad market? Does that make sense? Okay. There's another thing that we call a measured move in our stock analysis. Okay. So do you see this little kind of cup and handle formation in that dip we had in October of 2023? Okay. That rotational move straight up is our leg breakout. Okay. Now, what will happen a lot of times when we get that pullback, okay, we can rotate that and have a measured move from the pullback that roughly measures the same amount. Okay. Do you see that? You see that move that measures from this low to this high straight up. And if I drag it over there to that pullback, that takes me right to around 690, 680 and some change. So that's close enough to around 700, right? So if we get that push into there, if we make it by the end of the year, which I think personally it is proven to, with this bull market and earnings coming up, is very much possible. Okay. But if we get that push into the end of the year, like we normally do, is that when we get our next pullback leg again? All right. That is what I'm looking for our next big leg pullback, where if you miss this one, right, there's going to be another one that is coming. All right. And the charts will tell us so. All right. Cool. What's going on, Chris? David, I appreciate you so much. All right. So there we go. Let's jump into our daily view of SPY. And I'm going to do some candlestick analysis here on the daily view. Okay. So I'm going to mark this up, and I'm going to mark it off at the highs that we have reached. Okay. Which was 672.68. Now, if you're a futures person, right, you look at the futures market, that is a very key level of 6,800. Okay. So I don't want to get ahead of folks, but the futures market, the ES futures, right, gives us also an indication of the market sentiment and the market levels. Okay. So even though SPY is not at a psychological level of maybe 680 or 675, a nice round even number, right? We were at a very pivotal level of the ES futures at 6,800. I want you to look what happened at 6,600. Look what we did when we got to 6,600. Psych level pulled back a little bit, not as deep, and then ripped. Okay. What did we do at 6,500? First time we reached 6,500 right there, pulled back pretty massively right there. Okay. That's where we got our kind of weekly pullback, or our big pullback that we wanted, right at that 6,500. What did we do at 6,400? First time we reached 6,400. Okay. We blasted right through it, but then we pulled back off of it. All right. So right at this 6,400, pulled back drastically. Okay. Now, it's not drastic because we're still making higher lows and higher highs. I'm just talking about in the short term, right? That might scare somebody, right? If you are intraday trading, or if you are looking at your portfolio long term and you wake up and you see blood red, right, and you don't have a broader view of what a true pullback looks like, we want these because we're still in a bull market. Right? Higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, still trending upwards. So when we get those massive kind of in the futures market, 6,400 back to 6,250, 150 point drop, right? That freaks people out, right? So 6,800 is going to be very key for us to watch, and going to be very pivotal this week of what we do around this 6,800 ES level. On SPY, that's going to be right around this 670. Okay. So we popped up, faked out, and trapped bulls. And this is where we can start get interested in where our pullback levels are. All right. So if you are a bull, I'd be very, very kind of patient of where the bottom is. So if you only buy pullback buys or pullback calls, or you are a equity trader, or you are a long-term investor, where's the bottoms? Don't try to time it. We're going to get some levels for you today. All right. So the first level is our stair step, okay, which is this equal low of 6,686. Okay. So if you're a little, superstitious, I get it. I know it's 666 and it's Halloween, so Halloween month. But 666 to 667 is going to be that first test. All right. We almost made it there on this pullback here off of 672. All right. Now, the first interesting level that we blasted through was this 671. Okay. Do you see that was a previous high that if buyers wanted to step in, they would have held this level right here and went higher. But guess what it did? It broke through. If you watch my previous video, retested and went lower. So that shows us that sellers or profit takers are very heavily present up here. All right. Now, one thing that I haven't done on this is turn on my volume profile. Okay. And my volume profile tells us that we are in a very low volume area. Do you see these candlesticks that are being pulled out here? When we're in a low volume area, you see how the candlesticks are lower over on this side, and they're not candlesticks. It's just volume that is coming in. When we're in a low volume area, typically there's not many heavy buyers sitting in that area or sellers sitting in that area. It's very low volume, and that's why we get that kind of trickle up. And then stocks like to kind of go through that low volume area to get back to a volume area where they like. Okay. So I didn't want to turn that on too early, but you'll see in a second where our next level that we could pull back into. Okay. So again, I'm talking to my bulls or my buyers right now on this week of where we might pull back into. So let me turn off the volume. Okay. The first level that we'll test is this 666 to 667. And that will be a level that we wanted to watch to see if bulls hold up. And I'll talk about for anyone that is looking to short the market a little bit, right? That we could take some pops and failures or pops into puts, or if you're in futures, pops into sells down to this area. But I want to talk in a bullish nature first. All right. 670, I would like to see a slight push back into 671, which will probably have a little bit of recovery probably tomorrow. So if you see some green tomorrow or some maybe green on Tuesday, that is normal. Okay, we're in a bull market. So we may try to retest that 670 to 671. But the key is, again, do we hold it or do we fail back underneath and then turn that into a downtrend to get back to that 667? Okay. So when you open up your Robinhood and maybe you're not on charts, or you open up your Yahoo Finance and you just see numbers, don't be surprised if we are shooting back to the upside slightly on Monday as a recovery. But sometimes that's another trap because we had so much selling pressure on Friday. So I like to show, quote unquote, beginners or people that are not on the charts actively or not in a group watching it move day in, day out, is because they get excited and say, man, we're back, bullish. And they start trying to think we're going to take a new all-time high immediately. Okay. We could retest the high and then double top and come right back down to get to that 667. Right. So just be very careful this week on the first pop that we get. Make sure that it's true to see if it's strong enough to see if we reclaim that 671. And if we sit up here for an hour or so, maybe it tries to bull flag to get back up there. All right. So that is our kind of bullish case to start off the week. All right. But I would really love a little pop and then just trickle down and get down into there to see truly, is that where it wants to base to go? All right. So there are your two bullish scenarios. Okay. Now, for my bears or anyone that may want to short the market, or if you are interested in shorting the market, I will be watching exactly what I talked about. Okay. This looks more like a kind of a bearish flag to me. Okay. But if we retain this 670 and reclaim it back up, I might want to just be patient and watch that to see what we do, to see if we start doing something like that. Right. So that would be my kind of bear flag right there. You see it? So that's what I'll be kind of watching for on Monday, is a little bit of a pop, and to see how we react, and to see if that 671-ish to 670 fails again and we rotate back down over the course of Monday and Tuesday potentially. All right. Because buyers, like I said, that high volume node that I just pulled up a minute ago is really sitting on a daily, back in this area here of 667. And you can kind of see it. We'll get to this area. We'll get to this area in a second. That is my first level of interest. Okay. Now, what I like to also do, if you are also doing this yourself, if I have any advanced traders or anybody on here, is I like to change between time frames and scan to see if I see any signals of candle structure. On this 4 hour, do you see this candle right here, which we call it a shooting star or an inverted hammer candle, right? That typically signals some type of selling reversal. Okay. So a very heavy top wick close back underneath that previous candle and then a follow through here. All right. So that area, like I just marked out on a different time frame, is going to be my area of interest where sellers are pretty heavy. Okay. And even if I wasn't doing this on a live and talking to you all, this is what I do in my private time before the market open or the week opens. Because when I go into a week, I want to already be prepared, very similar to going to your job. This is a job. This is a career, right? This is a skill set that you have to prepare for, just like you do your meeting presentation or whatever Zoom meetings that you have this week at work. This is a true preparation. So when you show up, you're ready to roll. It's game time. All right. So I'm already having multiple scenarios and playbooks that I'm ready for. All right. Not just guessing and showing up. All right. So I can react faster. So I see that. So I'm scanning. So I got that in the back of my mind in my playbook. Okay, cool. That's another confirmation of 670 has some heavy selling. We failed back underneath. And then we've got this interesting kind of balance range that's just sitting right there. Okay. So we're back in this kind of zone and range. All right. Now let me get to the bigger idea of a bigger pullback that some of you may be looking for on SPY. All right. The bigger pullback area is if we fail underneath this 666. Okay. It's kind of spooky. We fail underneath, right? And we get underneath that and it struggles here. Right, we really have nothing down into that 662 and 660. Okay, so I'm gonna turn on moving averages in just a second, but this will be my next area of interest. Right, we'll be right there. So I want to have kind of an A+ setup on what type of pullback I would like to see in the market to be confident of, is this the bottom, or is this a little intermediate kind of bottom here and then we flush lower. All right. Now, if I look kind of at that trend line just slightly from here to here to here, that'd be kind of right in that higher low pullback trend line, very similar to popping up here, pull back, popping up here, pull back, giving up the whole move, and then going higher and popping up here. And then we've got that 660 to 662. Okay. So I would love this kind of bigger pullback because that makes it more attractive of volatility to rotate truly back up if that is the bottom. And then we want to rotate back up like that, right? The concern is if we get underneath 662, and I'll turn on the moving average for this one on a daily. Okay. I want you to see right where that daily 20 moving average is moving into. All right. You've heard me say it before. You've heard other people, if you use it, these moving averages on a daily, it looks like a wave, right? Light blue wave. It wants to ride this wave and hold that daily 20. And that daily 20 will rotate and follow the market, right? Just holding it up. And where is it moving right into? That 662. Okay. So do you see how it gets above daily 20, pulls back to it, gets above it, pulls back to it, gets above it, pulls back to it. So it's been holding that daily 20 very nicely, but it hasn't really retested. It's getting a little bit extended off of the daily 20. All right. So that's another confirmation that I'm like, that first little 667 might be interesting, but I might want to be a little bit cautious of it because, again, what did I say previously? That ES 6800. Okay. That ES 6800. Okay. Well, Brian, what if we never pull back and we just blast through new all-time highs? Okay, cool. Well, there we go. I'm still a little bit trappy up here, new all-time highs, but if we blast up above it, okay, cool. Then we got 675, right? The next cycle level. We got 675 and we'll go into new blue sky territory upwards, right? So the better trade for a breakout would be break above 673, above it. I wouldn't chase into it, right? So if you're a person that sees a big green candle, I would not chase into it. Let it go above, break, retest, and then you can take it up to confirm. Because what happened to people that entered calls right here? Trapped. Okay. Cool. There's my full analysis of SPY. Questions, thoughts, maybe give you a 2 in the chat. Are we good on SPY? And I'll go into QQQ and then we'll speed it up through our core list. So once I have a full analysis, like that's why I spend so much time personally on the overall market, SPY, QQQ, and our small caps IWM. Because once I get that, it's very easy to go through my core list, the Apples, the Amazons, the Googles, right? So that is why I personally spend a little bit more time on that to get a sentiment. All right, Qs. Okay, we got a little bit pullback from the Qs, led by Palantir and AMD, some other semiconductors that are pulling back. Meta kind of trapped some folks, and then we got Tesla pulling back. We'll talk about that as well. So you see Qs here on a weekly chart, roughly the same thing. I think Qs look a little bit cleaner than SPY, but yeah, we'll kind of analyze it the same way. So on a weekly time frame, monthly time frame, again, quickly, I won't do it fully here. You get the gist. But monthly time frame pullback at the top end of the range will be roughly around this 550 level. Okay, it's a psych level, nice round even number. If we do have a tech AI bubble pullback, right, I'm looking at 550, okay, for a bigger pullback. I'm looking really, how do you mark that, Brian? Personally, I like on a monthly chart, I'm looking at the candle closes of those months, okay? So the first candle close here of that big breakout above new highs was right at 550. We closed the month there, which was in June, okay? Then the July month closed right around 564, okay? So I can do a Fibonacci retracement, and it should line up roughly with that. If I pull that back to here, it should line up right in that 61.8 range, which is right at that 530. And then that 562 is right at that 78.6%. So I can maybe make a full extensive video on the Fibonacci. You know, if you know, you know, but I don't want to go too deeply into that. But these percentages right here are 61.8 and our 38.2 are typically where big money buyers want to come in and buy the stock on a pullback. Okay. So if we did get something like that, that would be a pullback there to go higher. Okay. All right. Let me do a Fibonacci on this and you can kind of see what I was talking about. If I do it from the highs here and pull it back to the lows of 2023, where did it pull right back into? That 38.2 zone right in that area. You see where buyers started to heavily step in? Right there. So if you're always missing like the dip, or you seemingly are getting in at the wrong time, or your average cost is off, or man, I just got in and then it dropped. Like the stock market's a scam, right? It's because people are buying when everyone is greedy, right? When the stock market is going straight up, you want to go ahead and try to trade the trend, but bigger pullbacks, you want to get prepared for where that might be. All right. Cool. Let's jump into our daily and see where the daily 20 is sitting. Our daily 20 is sitting roughly around this 593 to 594 area. So that's another 5-6 point move, right? 5-6 point move on QQQ if this daily 20 moves up with it and meets it right at that 595 to 594 area. Okay. So that's where I would like it. But again, the previous high is holding up, which is right at 603. Okay. See where buyers stepped in right there, previous high. And we got to see if this holds or does it pop and then blast right through it. Right. Like that. And then we get that pullback into there and then we can rotate it confidently back up. Okay. So that's what I would like to see. But again, tech, anytime someone gets a tech dip, right, it could be the smallest dip ever. They're buying it, right? Even at highs. So this is our area of interest right now at 602 to 603. Okay. So again, on Monday, Tuesday, we could rotate back up and just hold this level, rotate, and then we get a high of 605, 606, and then try to take out the high one more time. All right. So we are in support. So if you heard me at the beginning of the video, I said, hey, we're pulling back, right? We've got some selling pressure. However, all we've done is pull back right into a level of support at 602, 603. Okay. So my area of interest that I would like to see Qs pop back up into is roughly that 605. That's where I'm seeing some sellers a little bit heavier there at 605. If you see right here, we popped up into there, 605, pulled back, right? Held as support before, and then you can see we turned it into a resistance when we blasted through it on Friday. Right there, pop, lower, do we pop back up into it and then can't get back above that kind of 605 area, and then we come lower. So that would be my area of interest. If you do trade it back to the upside, you'd want to see a bolt back up above, hold it and go. Okay. If not, any pop could just be a fake out. There, pop, lower, retest the lows, back at 601 and some change. Okay. So kind of a tricky spot of what to do, because you've got selling pressure up here, and then you got to confirm that this is a low pop. But again, I would love that daily 20 pullback. That's where I love to get a little bit heavier in my trades. I love interest. Buyers love the daily 20. Big money loves the daily 20, daily 50s, things like that. Right at that moving average on a daily is when you want to get really interested in the stock. The further it gets away from it, a little bit extended, the further it gets away from it to the downside as well, a little bit more bearish. So pulling back to that daily 20 would be awesome. So I'm leaning more towards a deeper pullback side personally, because I like that. Any pops, I'm not really interested in chasing. All right. Cool. Let's look at IWM. IWM still strong, small cap still strong, rate cuts helping small cap companies, and they are liking it. All right. So here is previous highs. So we're going to go ahead and mark that on a daily. Okay, at 242 and some change. Again, I love that daily 20. You see it rotating back up into that 245, 244 area, right around this 243, I would say. So 243, as long as it's above that 243 area right here, we are still bullish. Okay. A deeper pullback would be into the 240 area, but that would be interesting right there. Anywhere close to like 240 to 241, I would like a little bit better. And it would look something like this. Maybe we hold this, just kind of sit here, and then we fill that gap, and then we come down into that 243, and I'd want to see it hold and then build and go. Okay. So daily 20, put that on your charts. If you don't know how, please watch the videos of my indicators on the channel. All right. Cool. And if you're on Robinhood Legend, which I do execute on, and I do do it, I've just been an avid Weeble person until Robinhood got Robinhood Legend. So you can turn your daily moving averages on the Robinhood Legend platform, or if you're on Thinkorswim or any other brokerage. All right. If you're on what is it? TradingView, same thing. Cool. We good there? So I just love anywhere the daily 20 is sitting. That's where I would want the pullback to be. Okay. So again, my gap fill strategy, if we can get another pop on IWM, potentially, right, into that 247 area, I'd watch for that to be interested in those gaps. The closer they are, I love for them to be fully filled. So this was a trade that we took on Friday. Took a little bit of patience for sure, but if we do get a pop back up into there, all right, I'll be looking for a failure of 247 or get back above it, and then we get to 250, something like that, and see if we have some kind of failure back down. But I would love that gap fill, interested more so around here. I'm not interested in personally chasing into new highs. Okay. I love the gap to get filled personally. If not, if it just keeps grinding, I'll just stay away from that. All right. Check the chat. Everybody good? For QQQ, I'll have to see tomorrow's Asia and London high and low, see how the price action holds before I get into heavy puts. Yep. So what Tanvir is talking about is that the futures market obviously is open now. and it will move throughout the evening Asian London session. Okay, so the futures market is open right now, and it is probably moving in a bullish fashion, right? If I check it right now, it is moving in a bullish fashion back up to the highs. So we may get that retest in the morning, right? So that's the beautiful thing about understanding futures a little bit more, is the move that you're looking for, more specifically in our New York session or when we trade options, right? The futures market might be making that move that we're talking about right now. And you can see it happening as we speak. You see that pop we were talking about? Okay, it's rotating, gonna rotate. Okay, they're already taking that trade, and we can rotate right back into that resistance and see where we go from there, which leaves a gap, and we can rotate right back down. All right. So the bullish trade you might have been trying to take in the morning for a pop might not be a setup when you wake up in the morning if you do trade options. Does that make sense for everybody? Appreciate you, Tanvir. So I just want to clarify what he was talking about. All right, there's SPY or ES, right? So you see us rotating back up, right? They're taking this nice bull flag at this Asian open, right? Kind of rotating, grinding higher. The gap didn't get fully filled, and we could rotate right back down if we are back up into the highs on Monday morning and into Tuesday. We'll have to see. But that set 6,800, very key. All right, let's jump into our core list. And this is a time for anybody that is new or that is coming back multiple times. Go ahead and put your favorite stocks down below if you want me to analyze them, give you some technical analysis. And please be mindful that we have a new level. All right, we have a new level inside of Leverage University. If you're a person that's like, hey, Brian, I just need levels. Like, I would like to know your updated levels throughout the week. Our apprentice level inside of Leverage University just gives trade ideas. Right? Doesn't give you live trading, doesn't tell you when I enter. It just gives you my charting analysis with a full fundamentals, where's the levels, contracts to consider, but you have to execute on your entry. All right. So if you'd like that type of level, you're more than welcome to join. But I do recommend the analyst level, which is kind of our prime level where you have live trading. You can pop in anytime you want. You get the recordings of live trading, all that type of stuff. All right. Let's go into our core list here, which is in blue, which are pretty much the Mag 7. I'm just put that in quotes. Seems like there's a new Mag 7 every day. Let's look at Apple. Okay. Apple kind of forming a little bit of this kind of, you could look at it as a bull flag, kind of a rising wedge bull flag. It is all grinding up into all-time highs. Okay. When the market's also getting a little bit heavy. So Apple, not really interested in it unless it breaks above 260. If you're an Apple trader and you want to trade Apple, you got to get above, probably touching into 261, pull back to 260 and hold, and then take off into new highs. Okay. But it's also got to associate with maybe a breakout on QQQ and a breakout on the NASDAQ, breakout on SPY. Right. So I'm not really interested in Apple trading up into a breakout of highs when the market's just getting a little bit heavy in general. Okay. So Apple, just going to watch it, what it does up in here. I would love these gap fills back down. Okay. So my interest in Apple on like the trade idea that I would want on Apple as it's strong is I would like a pullback back in the 240 area personally. All right. This thin structure here on Apple, 240 to 245. Right through some of these gaps. I would love that on Apple, but it's got to break underneath. There's a daily 20 kind of rotating right at 245. Okay. So that's what I would love on Apple, kind of trap buyers up here into new highs and then kind of rotate out of this wedge down, back, retest down. Okay. Go watch the last video I just posted about my 3 A+ setups. And this would be technically a trend break. Okay, so break underneath this trend, underneath 255, retest it, and then take that down into 240, 243. All right. So that's the kind of the trade I would want on Apple. So I'm just going to leave this little grind alone for right now. Okay. If you're an Apple trader, you're bullish, break above 260, take it up higher or wait for the pullback. Amazon. This is the big one that everyone with the, what is it? The thumbnail that's on here. Brian, Prime Day. What's going to happen with Amazon? Prime Day. What's going to happen with Amazon? Prime Day happens, but what typically happens on Prime Day is you have the report of Prime Day sales following Prime Day, right? So my kind of sentiment of Amazon is bullish, obviously. Okay. However, where's the bottom on Amazon? I think that's what people are like, man, I'm just going to go ahead and start. Man, Amazon's going to rotate off 220 and just rotate back to the highs, right? And this is why the charts are so important in understanding price action is if I look at this, where's the pressure? The pressure's on the downside, right? We broke trend right here, trapped highs, could be a double top there. And I'm looking on a 4-hour time frame. Now we do have some gaps back up here, right? This looks kind of like an Apple move where we trend down and then we just rotate and rip back up, okay? But we got to be careful of where the bottom is right now on Amazon. I kind of like this area. On Friday, I was telling my group inside of Leverage University, if y'all know, I was like, hey, let's watch Amazon. Let's see if it can rotate. It first targets 226, then 230, then reclaim, and then we're back to 235 plus. But this kind of bearish looking flag here, this trap, do you see where it trapped right there? It was trying to go higher and break out and then just trapped everybody and went all the way back down roughly 4 points, right? Pretty quickly. That tells me that price action on Friday with that type of candle, with a continuation candle on a 4-hour, tells me that maybe there's still some selling pressure. Okay. Maybe there's still some selling pressure. Okay. So with that type of move, that just simply means patience for me. Okay. Especially with the market at all-time highs. So Amazon was pulling back, right, while the market was going up. Okay. And if market pulls back, what do you think is going to start accelerating? Something that was already in a downtrend. Okay. So I really like, and I was talking to James about this, one of our moderators inside the community, that we were talking about this kind of like 210 area, 212, right? Kind of that area giving us one more leg down just to be certain of where the bottom is. So even though it's Amazon Prime Day, you know, we got to see it reclaim back above kind of this daily 20 here, which would be right at, excuse me, not daily 20, maybe paying attention to this daily 200. Maybe that 214 tick down to the 212. You see what it did here? Right? Kind of a trap underneath there, reclaim, and then went. That's what I would like to see personally. That's what I would like to see, because that candle right there is not very pretty. All right. This type of candle right here is not very pretty because that is signifying a trap and it wants to come lower into like a bear flag. We got some gaps below. So Amazon, please be patient. And I'm saying this because there's a lot of folks that, like, if you're a person that puts calls out, you know, December, January, or November 21st is another date we're looking at right now. And you're just like, keep picking up Amazon calls, keep picking up Amazon calls. That's fine. I'm talking to the person that is like, Amazon Prime Day, enter calls. You've heard that before on the trading streets, right? People just, you know, Tesla delivery numbers, they're good, enter calls. Just no rationale at all. Just news is good, enter calls. I'm like, bro, what are y'all doing, man? What are you telling people? This is why folks, what are we doing? So does that make sense for everybody? Can I get a 3 in the chat? I know you're a little quiet in the chat, which is cool. Give me some feedback. Is this making sense? So Amazon, please be a little bit more patient this week, maybe for a pullback into 215, and then your next level will be 212. So I've got my level there at around 215 as kind of my early pay attention to right here. And then I've got my bigger level that I like, which is around 212. That didn't even connect anywhere. Right now, I know some of you may be looking at even a deeper pullback, right? You're like, Brian, Amazon's got to hold this 212, 215 area to go higher. If not, we've got another gap down there, right? If something crazy happens. Yeah, I get that, but we're in a bull market. So we got to pay attention to this area first. Buyer sitting right there. And then let's look at that volume node to see if anything comes through on a weekly. Yeah, kind of right around in this area, right? kind of right around that area. And you see the big volume node where we got picked up right there. Let's look at a daily volume. All right. Kind of right around this 210 area, but sellers still stem up heavy, a lot of heavy seller volume up in here, pushing that stock down. Okay. So Amazon, I really want the rotation. Like I don't want to bet against Amazon at all personally. I don't think y'all do either. Okay. So as it's pulling back, we just need to be mindful where the bottom is so we can pick up that dip and rotate it back up. I'm even looking at a structure, something like this on Amazon. Okay. Even looking kind of at a cup and handle. So big cupping formation here, a little bit of bullish consolidation handle. And then we rotate back up. Right. So that is Amazon. Any questions on Amazon? Or what questions does anyone have on Amazon? So I like 212. I like 215 if we can kind of get those to see how those better react. Cool. Let's see. Anyone in Leverage University want to comment how valuable it is, in my opinion? Maybe just put a 5 in the chat. I think it's very much valuable. And if you're doing this on your own, that's perfectly fine. But to hear someone talking through while the market's moving. So when I say watch Amazon tomorrow, I'll be watching to see, how, if it pushes down into there, okay, Brian, it's at 212. Does that mean entered? No, I got to see how it reacts, right? Do we get a volume push back above? Okay, cool. Then there it is, right? Do we push down into here into 216 and then reclaim back above and then go here? Well, Brian, it didn't pull back into 212. It's just ripping. Okay, well, I'm watching price action, PA, how the stock is moving at different levels. So I mark my levels and then I watch how the stock is moving. Do I see buyers? Do I see bullish candles? Do I see reversals? Do I see bounces? Do I see continuation downward, right? Every pop is getting kind of, weak, right? So if you're in some type of group, that's great. If you're watching on your own, that's great. If you don't know anything, if you've never seen someone talk through while candles are moving, that's also the value of being in some type of trading community group, something, right? You can even get your friends together and say, hey, let's watch the market together. It doesn't matter, right? Whether you're paid or you do something. I'm just saying that it is very much valuable to watch talking through candles moving. All right. Google 240 area here, 240 holding up. Now, again, we have already been overextended here on this push, and I'm looking to see if this turns into a bull flag. Not really interested in chasing all-time highs. Again, I'm just going to watch for the short. Whenever that happens, that's what I want on Google, right? If it goes without me, cool. But I want this, and then out of nowhere, bad news comes on Google or something, and we get that. I want that. So I want break below this 242. And that's simply just because I'm not interested in this type of risk to reward, right? I'm not interested in that, right? So as you get more, and if you're an experienced trader, that's cool, right? Let me know down below if you understand what I'm talking about. I'm not really interested in that type of risk to reward, right? After we've already moved up. I would be highly interested in a bigger move if I can get something looking like that, right? That's what's in my mind. So the type of trade that you're looking for on particular stock. All right. All right. Microsoft, same kind of looking thing. Not really interested here. If you're a Microsoft trader, that's cool. I kind of miss trading Microsoft, but after it made that big move from the last earnings report, I mean, the drop through the gap was nice. This finally pulled back, but then this has been just kind of ugly. So I've just been taking this off my charts, just watching it. But Microsoft's in this channel above 220, maybe can rotate higher, but It's just kind of stuck in this little channel here. So Microsoft, not really interested. Meta, this one is interesting, okay? Because earnings season is coming up and Meta's pulling back, okay? Y'all know Meta betting against Mark Zuckerberg every single time the earnings have been absolutely massive, okay? Earnings report right there leading up into earnings, okay? I want you to look at this. This is a perfect example of leading up into earnings, all right? The earnings report was right here on July 31st, all right? The past earnings did very well, but the whole move leading up into earnings, all right? And then we jumped higher even more. So Meta on earnings went from 703 to 795, okay? Now, was earnings priced in and they may have a little struggle? There may be some AI concerns. I don't know, because we have seen opposite, right? Where there's a trap and Meta or stocks pull back on their earnings. So you see this earnings report right here, right? It pops, but then following that earnings, we have a massive pullback, okay? So Meta, anytime we have a big AI stock or big tech stock kind of pulling back, we want to be highly interested in that particular stock of what it does. So Meta's earnings is on the 29th of this month. You see what I'm saying? That we need to get prepared for earnings season coming up, because Meta's earnings is literally at the end of this month in about 3 weeks, and it's pulling back. Okay. So we know that Meta has some extreme bulls. Okay. So Meta, as it's pulling back into this 700, 695, do you see that that is where buyers held up last time we were here? And that's right at that high volume node that we're coming through, okay, on a 4 hour in this high volume area here as we push down into an overextended Meta stock. And it is a big player, okay? So if you have a bigger account and you trade Meta, Meta is not easy to trade, in my opinion. Right. But it is very interesting to say, man, this risk to reward, right? Like for some of y'all, like, dang, Meta move $100. Like, how do I catch those? Right. You start getting interested right now. Okay. You start getting interested at this 700, 695, right? Because Meta could potentially rotate back up through here and make a 50-point move. So like that is my bigger outlook on this Meta trade leading up into earnings, right? But I need to see again how the stock and the candles move into those levels. And you see right now it is in a gap, okay? So Meta has more room through this gap. Now, if you are trading the downside of Meta and you like this trade this week, you can maybe catch a nice 10-point move through Meta in this gap down into the 690s. Okay, so if you're interested in that, it is a bigger player. That means the options contracts are a lot more pricey. You can see right here, $1,200, right? Even further out of the money, right? You got down into our target is still $600, $700, $800. So a stock like Meta, personally for me, I typically trade, you know, if it sets up, it's at a level and it's on a Wednesday, right? And I'm trying to day trade it, I will typically trade Meta or, you know, something like that, typically like a Wednesday, and maybe catch it on a Thursday when contracts are a little bit cheaper. So Meta, watch it, be interested. What it does down here, it could be a buy opportunity back down into here. Let's see where the daily 20 is. Okay, so it's underneath the daily 20, also underneath the daily 100. That is also interested. So underneath that daily 100, which is at 720, daily 20 is all the way up here. So this is a different outlook when a stock is underneath its daily moving averages, right? Do you see what happens when it gets underneath the daily moving averages? It moves to the next one, right? So shoot, can Meta pull back even deeper down into 666, right? Maybe 680 is a big level. So Meta might have a bigger drop than we think. So if it has some kind of capitulation drop down into there like that, that would be even more interesting for Meta of which way it goes. All right. So keep Meta on watch. And we'll be watching it inside the community. If I see it and it's a prime A+ setup, it's overextended, right? Something like that. And we get a bottom, I'll be looking at that to see if it sets up on maybe a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday for a nice squeeze scalp back up. All right. Cool. Tesla, everyone's favorite. Everyone's favorite when Tesla starts doing something crazy. What's going on with Tesla? All right. Tesla had good delivery numbers and trapped buyers up here at the highs. And then it had some continuation off of that 446 level, which was right here, which again was just a technical level. So folks that said, man, Tesla pulled back, here's the bottom. Here's another perfect example of what I'm thinking on Spire QQQ. So the first pullback leg was a failure back underneath, right? So if you're an experienced trader or experienced investor and you're like, that's a full engulfing failure candle back underneath the previous high, you weren't looking for buys or calls, right, on Friday. But I saw, and I checked threads, I checked Twitter, I saw some folks that were like, I'm buying Tesla calls on Friday. There was a big dip. And then they got trapped again to go lower, right? So that's why candle structure also matters tremendously and watching where levels are. We broke underneath. That is a break and a retest to go lower to the lower end of the range. All right. And again, it could be another lower move if we pop higher again into a lower high around 440. Okay. So if Tesla gets to 440 and wants to chop around here, it could come even lower back into 400. And I told Trent, if you're on here, remember I said that 400, you're like, Brian, where's a good buy on Tesla? So does that help, Trent, if you're on here? Did I not say 400 and back into potentially where? A retest of this thin structure at 365. Straight up move, straight down move. Don't chase. All right, let it come to you. Where are we sitting? Right on the daily 20. If we break underneath that daily 20, there is really nothing until about 365, 370. It will be a free fall and everybody will be panicking, but all it is a retest. Man, Tesla, I never get a new all-time high. Okay, well, technical retest right there at 370 and then 400. Okay. 400 is our first test, 370. Okay. So this daily 20 might not break. Okay. So if we continuously hold this, do you see that right there? If we hold this level right here, which is around 420. Okay. And we reclaim back above 450, then there's your move. All right. And that was the pullback. So I've got two levels. A kind of a more confident level would be a deeper pullback into here somehow to go higher. And then a kind of an interesting one would be this kind of right here at the daily 20. All right. So Tesla, if you are a Tesla trader or you're trying to catch a big Tesla move, right, pay attention to it because it does have a lot of volatility with it right now. It's kind of settled in after delivery numbers, but that 446 is going to be your level. 446 and then 430. Watch that level. Do we get back above? Just mark it on your charts, or do we keep rejecting underneath it? It will rotate back down, and your bottom end of the range is around $400. And 400 underneath that, straight down to probably about $30 move. All right. Cool. All right, Coinbase. I still save Coinbase for when I touch on crypto briefly. Let's jump into our semiconductors. NVIDIA. Not really interested too much in NVIDIA. Just kind of, it got broken to new all-time highs. We caught a really nice trade off NVIDIA, but just kind of sitting in this balance range here, right? It's just kind of sitting in this new range, and it's got some buyers 185, and I'm not really interested in a 188 to 190 move, right? I'm not really interested in that. So it would need to give me a deeper pullback into 184. For a nice little bounce again. So kind of somehow grind its way down here like that. Then I'll be interested in another bounce off of that to rotate it back up, right? So not really interested in NVIDIA. Broke a little bit of a trend here. As you can see right there, broke a little bit of a trend, right? And then broke trend, break, retest, hold, pullback. Okay. So that's what I'm looking at. Again, I checked the daily 20. Daily 20 could rotate up with it, right? So meeting it right there, maybe tick underneath somehow, but you would really want that 184 to hold. We get underneath 184, you see 183s, like you might see 180 again. It might be a failure of highs, and then we rotate back down like that. Okay. So please be careful in the video. I know a lot of people trade it, but not really interested in it right now. Not enough risk to reward. Now, here's a semiconductor that advanced money destroyer, whatever you want to call it, AMD, advanced micro devices. Getting very interesting here. Okay. Everyone has been waiting for this AMD breakout to get back above this balance range here, which we had right above 164, 155 to 164. Okay. Everyone see that balance range that was consolidating. Again, beautiful break out of the balance range, retest the top of the balance range, hold 164, and then rotate right back up. So this is a good risk to reward because you did not chase, hopefully, and it's pulled back through the first gap. What do I say about those gaps? Anytime I see a gap up, I am not interested until that gap fills or gets close back to that gap. So guess what? Filled the gap. Now we're back in an interesting range. So this could be a beautiful, beautiful hold, and it might consolidate here for a little bit. If it holds and I start seeing it build and buyers and builds and gets back above 165, okay, I can get a rotation at least back up to 170. So keep AMD on high alert this week into next week for AMD to rotate back up to 170. And I'll just go ahead and give this one out that I'd probably, if you want to be safe, look at next week's contracts. If you do this week's contracts and you're trying to day trade it, I'd probably just look at the 170s and keep it very simple. Anything further out, 175, you can get some movement on, but we would need some type of like positive news, in my opinion, for a big squeeze. It can happen. Big squeeze back up into there. Top end is 180, right? Because what we don't want to see is we don't want to see a failure back into this range, and then we grind back down into it, right? Which has happened. That's what happened with Amazon, right? It broke out and then came right back into this range, right? So that is why this level is very important to watch. If we hold above 164 and then kind of reclaim 166, okay? Watch that this week on AMD. Why do I say 166? Because that's right at that daily 50, right? Another moving average. See, fell back underneath, reclaim back above that 166. Okay, cool. 170, 175 in sight. Cool. We took a nice trade on QCOM. I think QCOM is a sleeper in my opinion. So look at this bigger view of QCOM. Do you see how QCOM is looking kind of like how MU was looking, right? MU was sleeping while everyone was just like, man, look at how MU was looking right here. See it at 90 and 100. See it at 90 and 100, building, finally getting some volume, and then just absolutely ripped from 100 to 191. So put QCOM on your charts because this is looking very, very interesting here, right? And if you're not too familiar with QCOM, if you are, BMW chips, other chips that they're doing, they're in the semiconductor sector. And it's been kind of lagging, but this could be a slow moving lagger. They could just rotate tremendously back up and be an absolute sleeper. So QCOM is one of those semiconductors where people are all looking at NVIDIA and, looking at AMD and even looking at Palantir and others, but maybe they missed MU. Like, dang, right? ARM. Right. ARM's kind of lagging a little bit, but I think Qualcomm is one of those is kind of lagging that could be a, $230, $250 stock. Right. So pay attention to that. It is a little bit of a slow mover for a day trade, but it's just kind of consolidating here, looking for a rotation. It breaks above 178. In my opinion, where's the break? 170. If it starts consolidating above 170, right, and gets kind of above there strong, that could be that straight up move that we start getting. Okay. All right. Palantir. Touch on it. This is what Tanvir was talking about earlier. Palantir, where's the bottom end of the range that we were looking at? You already see I hadn't even moved it. So we're right on par, Tanvir. 161 area would be the area of interest on Palantir for a pullback, okay? So if this area right here does not hold, that is a bigger area of interest for Palantir to rotate back. Now, sometimes, again, because it's such a strong stock, you might not get it, okay? But that would be the area of interest that you would be really interested in, okay? So Palantir, full engulfing candle here, in my opinion, just took out pretty much a weeks full of gains, couple weeks full of gains, right? 171 went up to 186. People thought it was going to break out to new all-time highs, $200. It trapped everybody, pulled back. And now it is at an interesting kind of oversold 170 level. All right. So this is very interesting on a daily, kind of sitting right here at this 168 to 170 zone. All right. You can see that is where we had our earnings gap up. So our earnings gapped up, held that, and went to 190. Now we've pulled back to our earnings gap. And this is where we could get, right, which it might already be doing it by the time it happens in the morning. I want you to watch on Palantir. If you're a Palantir trader, if you're a person that's watching Palantir, 177. 177. 177. I'll make that even bigger. That area right there is your area that you want to watch what Palantir does up into. Okay? Because that is the area that we previous support. And what did I say? Very similar to how Tesla did. Okay? Broke under 177. Does it pop into it? Gets weak and then rotates into the next leg down. Okay? So 177. Now, if we get just a big bullish squeeze back above 177, go into 178, pull back, hold 177. Okay, cool. There it is. There's a full rotation back up. See, I told you, Brian, like that was just a little dip. Watch 177. Okay? Watch 177. So if you want to take a trade back up for Monday or Tuesday and you think this is a short intermediate bottom at 170 and want to rotate it back up to 177 and then hold runners and maybe get 180, okay, cool. That is a beautiful squeeze trade, right? I want to see how it kind of happened last time. Kind of like right here. See, big push down. There's that 161, but then there's that 170, and then that's where buyers squeeze it up back into 177, then just grind it higher. So you just look left, see what happened at that area. So I think we'll get a little double bottom hold, right? 177, because there are definitely some Palantir bulls out there that are like, dip, pick it up. I can get a 15-point squeeze all the way back to the highs. That is very much possible, right? So Palantir, I like the volatility right here. So it's going to be one of my top kind of day trading watches of what it does, because there's going to be a lot of volatility now that it's broke trend. People are picking up the dip. People are trying to reject it, take it lower. So Palantir, AMD kind of top watches this week along with Amazon. Let me see how we're doing on time. Okay, it's time to start wrapping up here. Hour and a half in. All right. Hood. Just watching 150. New all-time highs. Just watching 150, what it does at 150. Any pullback hood, I would maybe watch the previous high, 143. Again, the beautiful pullback would be daily 20 pullback, 130. It will look absolutely drastic that hood is tanking, kind of like what Palantir did, but that is what the pullback that you would want. Right? Back into the 130s, 132s, that would be money. Okay? That would be your money place right there. All right? Rotating back up into that daily 20. All right? So be patient on hood. I put it on the side watch right now because not really interested in this grind higher and not interested in trying to really time the top. of the drop. All right. So if you want to put time on it and try to short it, that's your prerogative. All right. All right. Oracle. I just mentioned James on this one because he pointed this out in our community. If you're a person that likes trading big stocks, wide ranges, things like that, we've got some significant kind of interesting level here on Oracle. All right. It's got a big gap down below and it has kind of rejected this 293 level. So Oracle could get a nice move back down into this 277, 280 level. All right. Now Oracle's contracts, not that pricey, you know, when you look at it, but for a big move, you could get some nice movement on it as well. So watch this area. It's giving us a nice area of rejection here. But again, if it fakes out and it squeezes back above 295, then that's a reclaim. All right. So just watch 293 and the cycle level of 290 on Oracle if you're interested in that trade. Okay. You kind of see lower highs, then another lower high. And guess where it's rejecting? Right off the daily 20. Interesting. All right. Where's that daily 50? The next moving average, right at 260, middle of the gap. Man, these charts are like money. Like money. You can already see the money. If it continues to hold underneath that daily 20, it's going probably to the daily 50, which is right at 260. By when? No one can tell you. It can happen in one day, one fell swoop. It can happen over a couple of days. It can retrace back up and go down, but there's that next moving average if it stays underneath that daily 20. All right. Healthcare. Let me check the chat, make sure no one's posted anything really quick. Japanese market is booming. You had layup trade for us. We're close to a wrap. Yes, I did. Layup trade, looking very bearish. Cool. Y'all want me to skip the layup trade? I think there's a layup trade. Okay, kind of a sleeper. I'm just going to say this for Leverage University. I'm just going to mention healthcare is booming. All right, I got a couple of layup trades. Here's one. CMG. Wrapping up. CMG. Chipotle. Okay. This is a trade that I think is a layup trade. I think it's a layup trade. I think it's a safety trade. I think it's a beginner trade. I think personally that it is easy money. Okay. For shares and or leaps or a big swing trade. Okay. So I'm just going to give this out right now. If you take it, you take it. If you're in Leverage University, I'll let you know when I enter, which will probably be sometime this week. Okay. And that's when we get off the specific contracts. So I'll give you targets here and where it's going. You can already see it if you're like, ooh, I already got folks in the community. And when I posted in the Discord, they're like, Brian, I like that. I like that. Okay. So I'll analyze why this is good and why I like it personally is that on a monthly chart, where have we popped and where have we retested to a previous high, where a high volume node is on a weekly and also a daily chart. Okay. Now on a monthly chart, there is a beautiful break and retest. And the high we know is at 69.26, pretty much $70. The high close candle that we have is right here at 63. Okay. So I'm just going to mark the targets of the close candles of the bullish months that we have. So those are my targets to the upside. So I've got $40 back to 50, 56.20, 60, and pretty much 63.31 or 64. That is a beautiful risk to reward on a solid stock that we know of, that we know is not going anywhere. They just came out with a new menu. The prices are still decent. Okay. And folks are still going to Chipotle. All right. Now let's see what else is confluencing. Where is the daily 20? Right there, popping off the daily 20. What else is confluencing? Changing direction on a falling wedge downtrend that is broken out and changed direction. Okay. Where are the moving averages that it's headed back up to? Right back up to 47, right back up to 50, and then through the gap back up to the resistance at 56. So guess what? I'm like, man, go ahead and put time on this. January. If I know the targets, Look at those 50 calls for January 16th for an easy money trade for the next quarter. Put a 5 in the chat if that's good. If you see what I'm seeing. Well, Brian, how much of the contract? If I got any beginners on here, how much of the contracts? $100. Well, how much would they be if it went up to 50 from 40? Pretty much $500, $600, $700 maybe. Pending theta decay. Do you see what I'm saying? Do y'all see what I'm seeing? Okay. Now, there's always excitement, like, man, easy money, easy money, easy money. All right. But you still got to manage the trade. So how do I make this safer or easier money? Right. I can do two things. I can put time on the contract, which for something like Chipotle, right, 3 months, in my opinion, could be a nice, swing trade. Even you could day trade those if you wanted to. Like you could day trade November 21st contracts if you wanted to. I mean, the 45s are $150. If y'all know, like you could day trade that if you want to. Look at these contracts. They're already up 40% from Friday's pop. Okay. So that is a trade. If you're like, man, this is too easy, put it all the way out till March, right? March 2026. Well, the 50s into March 2026 are still underneath $200, right? So you can put even more time on it just in case something crazy happens and Chipotle takes out a high and, these consumer discretionary, these restaurants that have been, kind of pulling back a little bit, the Cavas, the Chipotles, right? If you're a beginner and you don't know, Chipotle was a $1,400, $1,500 stock. It did a 10-to-1 stock split. So Chipotle is nothing new to bullish movement to the upside. Put a 5 in the chat if that's good. Put a 5 in the chat if you see what I'm seeing. Do you see what I'm seeing? If you don't see what I'm seeing, I don't know what to tell you. If you don't see what I'm seeing, I don't know what to tell you. Because when we see that and you know what we're talking about and you're learning, you're like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Now, another catalyst could be earnings. Look at where earnings is stepping in. Okay. And I'll give you the opposition as well. Okay. The earnings is on the 29th. That means we've got leading up into earnings. If earnings takes off, if there's good guidance on Chipotle, I mean, the candle on Chipotle continuously could be already there like that. Right? So Chipotle is my easy money trade or easy idea that I am considering entering starting this week. Okay. Brian, what day? Potentially tomorrow, potentially Tuesday. I'll let my Leverage University Discord know when I enter. But if you are comfortable taking your own trade, do with it at your own discretion, not financial advice. You're also welcome to do shares as well. Okay. So I'll just let you know how I personally do it. When I get into a big swing trade, I don't go heavy right off the bat. So if you've heard swing traders before, I will enter based on my risk tolerance saying, okay, I don't really want to worry about this trade. I can put time on it and spend a little bit more money. And I can maybe do, whatever your risk tolerance is, 2 contracts, 5 contracts, 10 contracts. It's called a starter position. Okay. Because guess what? I've also got to be prepared that what if Chipotle, wants to come a little bit lower, right? What if it wants to come a little bit lower back down into the mid 30s? Brian, you gave us the wrong trade. Hey, I'm adding to it. That's why it's not financial advice. And that's why I'm giving you the idea. And we look for it and we consider it right here at 39, reclaiming 40. I like it at the daily 20. I like that also the RSI on a weekly is getting overextended. Also, the RSI is starting to form this nice structure here. Nice bullish structure on that RSI. Let's look at the MACD. MACD starting to curl here on a weekly time frame. I'm liking that. Every time the MACD curls, crosses. Where's the final big move where it crossed up here? Crossed and then held above. That was that big move that Chipotle made right here. Right? So I like Chipotle a lot, right about 40 bucks. Taking it to 50 will be your first target. And you can clearly see where the gap fill is right there. Okay. All right. I think that's it. Going a little bit overboard, and you can see I'm excited. So yeah, let me know if you take the trade, if you make money on some of these trades. Let us know. Maybe DM me. Right, Instagram is right there. Twitter's right there. I'd love to hear from you. If we're helping out at all, if you're learning something, even if you're not inside of our Discord as of yet, right, that is okay. Right, I'm not here to pressure anybody. I'm simply saying, hey, I just want to educate. If you can hear it in my voice, okay. So if we are helping you on this channel at all, please, it does help to say, hey, Ryan, like that video really helped. Like I learned something. I started here, so on and so forth. All right. Peace, love, and blessings to you. Y'all have a great rest of your Sunday evening, and I will see y'all this week inside of our Discord for live trading. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.